Hey friends, so today I just kind of wanted to talk about reading the Bible. I used to not know where to start. I grew up in a religious education system, and I didn't read the Bible for myself. And actually, when I tried, it was just like, what is this? So I kind of wanted to give some ideas to help you start reading the word on your own. First, I would say pray. Talk to God. Talk to the author. It says in the word, ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and the door will be open. So I take that verse and I pertain it to the word as well. And God also says in his word, when you seek him with all your heart, you'll find him. So when you go to him in prayer and you want to know what his word has for you and you want to know what he has to say, my suggestion is to pray. My suggestion is to talk to him and ask him what he wants you to hear through his word, because it's alive. The next thing I would say is to get a translation that is your speed. Now, the Bible app has different translations to choose from, but if you want like a Bible, then I would suggest buying one that is your speed. I started with the CSB. Ain't no shame in my game, because I needed it to make sense to me. And yeah, so do it. You don't have to stick with KJV when you start. Build up to that. KJV, King James Version. You don't have to start with that. Then I would just say to start. So after you pray and after you get a version that works for you, just start reading. People ask me where to start. Sometimes people suggest starting in the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And that's an okay place to start. I would not say that you should forsake the Old Testament. Starting at Genesis has its perks because you get to see God in the beginning. You get to see how it all started, his power, his intention. You just get to see who God is, his character, when you start in Genesis. I would kind of compare the Old Testament to flipping through old photographs and scrapbooks of your parents. I don't know if you've ever done that, but I did. I've done that before. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is who they are. This is what they've done. This is who, they were before I came along. And it gives you a lot to think about, to relate to learn. So I think the Old Testament is so rich because it shows us God's relationship with humans throughout history, and how he doesn't change, and how he is full of grace, and how his redemption, he prefers redemption over destruction, and just his love and abounding just care for humanity is all through the Old Testament. So I would definitely say, if you can, start in the Old Testament too. Because the Old Testament and the New Testament do align and they do correlate, but it just gives you a richer perspective. My biggest suggestion would be on how to approach what you read and how you take it and how you take it in. As you read, ask yourself, what am I learning about God in this? What am I learning about other humans in this? And what can I apply to myself in this that I'm reading, that I'm learning? In every account, there's something to see about God. How does he operate? How does he speak? What does he relish in? What does he find offensive? When does he perform his greatest miracles? Those type of things give us hope when things around us want to tell us otherwise. When we are able to recognize situations from past accounts of encounters with God and of his works and of his moves, when something happens in our life, we can look and we can say, wait a second, I remember when he did this there. Wait a second, he's consistent. He never fails. He never changes. So when I'm the underdog against the giant, when I'm in the fiery furnace, when I'm being thrown in the lion's den, what is his timing like? How does he show up? when someone that I've read about has exhibited faith, how did God move and reward and show up faithful in that? Those are important things to know. You've got to know God. So when you've got to know God for yourself, you've got to know how he moves and how he works, because the world wants to tell us who God is, but God has told us himself who he is through history. So we got to know it. Just look for the trends and pay attention for his ways. He's very, I wouldn't say predictable, because he is a mystery on the reasons why things happen the way they do. But as far as his faithfulness and showing up and being predictable in that way, we might not know how he's going to show up, but we know he's going to show up. And that's what I mean by that. Then after you ask yourself, what are you learning about God? Ask yourself, what am I learning about human nature? How are these people I'm reading about similar to me? What behaviors and qualities do I see in myself and others that are similar to the ones mentioned in the Bible? And Solomon said it in Ecclesiastes, but nothing new is under the sun. When we think about it, human nature is quite similar. We're more alike than we're unalike. So when we even think about the ones mentioned in history in the Bible, we can say, we can usually pick up on how their humanity was manifesting in their own situation. We can when we look, we can read the account in scripture, but when we start to give these people human characteristics and human fears and human circumstances and human things to figure out and what they were really up against, when we bring context to it, it allows us to relate to it. It allows us to learn from them. It allows us to build from their foundation. After you've picked up what you're learning from God in that situation, in that scripture, and then you pick up on, okay, what is this telling me about other humans? What is this telling me about human nature? What is this telling me about life? And then finally, I would say reflect on what's going on in your own life. What questions do you have? What walls do you maybe keep running into? I do that all the time. What are we hoping for? Is there anything that we're reading that applies to what's going on in our life? Sometimes you have to look a few times at the same passage, reread it, pray, concentrate. I would suggest looking up commentaries. There's a lot of Bible scholars that give great context on really any verse in the Bible. People study the Bible, they study the context, the historical context, the social context from what's going on back then, even geographical context, knowing what it means when it says that Jesus was standing where he was standing, or when those people were going up the hill, or like, what did that mean? So once you get deeper, a lot of things start connecting to your own life. And other times we have to meditate and concentrate and really let him do the talking. And it becomes saturated with wisdom, direction, clarity. This has happened to me so overwhelmingly that I actually feel like the God of the universe has stopped, sat with me, and spoke to my own personal issue in prayer. So to sum it up, pray, talk to the God of the universe, talk to him, the author, tell him that you're seeking him and that you want to hear from him. Second, get a version of the Bible, the version of the word that you can comprehend, it's your speed. Everybody's speed is different. Just start reading. You can start, like I said, in the Gospels, you can start at Genesis. Then approach it with a lens of, what am I learning about God? When it seems like maybe it doesn't make sense, dig deeper. Get into the context of it, because everything in the word is valuable. Everything in the word, if you don't need it now, you'll need it later. So I just wanted to share that, because I get really deep in scripture, and I like to know God. I like to know more about him, how he works, his ways. So and I get excited when other people do. And so I hope this helped. I don't know who needed to hear this today, but God does. And I love y'all.